Most drivers think changing oil on time is enough to protect an engine. It isn't, because if you skip one critical step before the oil change even starts, fresh oil gets contaminated almost immediately, and that silent mistake can slowly destroy your engine over time. Most drivers believe regular oil changes automatically protect the engine. But if you skip the right prep before draining the oil, you may be mixing fresh oil with old contamination every single time. That is why some cars still run rough, burn oil faster, or feel tired even though the owner changes oil on schedule. The interval may be correct, but the process is incomplete. The real secret is that an oil change starts before the drain plug comes out. What you do in the minutes before the drain matters more than most drivers realize. And that is why this topic performs so well online. Drivers instantly understand the fear of engine damage, but they also love the idea of a simple step that costs almost nothing. The first major step is warming the engine slightly before draining. Not boiling hot, not fully cold, just warm enough for the oil to flow better and carry contaminants with it. A cold oil clings harder to internal surfaces, which means more residue can stay behind instead of draining out with the rest of the old oil. Warm oil flows thinner, suspends more debris, and gives gravity a better chance to pull out the junk you actually want gone before the fresh oil goes in. That is why many experienced DIY owners do a short drive, shut the engine off, wait a couple of minutes, and then begin the drain procedure. The next hidden move is what some people call a rinse drain. After the main drain, a small amount of cheap fresh oil can be used to help wash out leftover dirty residue. This works because old oil does not disappear perfectly. Some remains trapped in galleries, pump passages, and low areas where dirty residue can linger. So if you just add expensive fresh oil immediately, some of that clean oil gets contaminated from the first second it enters the system. Another detail people ignore is the crush washer on the drain plug. It looks tiny, but it is one of the cheapest parts protecting one of the most important seals in the whole job. Once compressed, that washer is no longer truly fresh. Reusing it can sometimes lead to slow leaks that go unnoticed until oil level starts dropping. And slow leaks are dangerous because they feel harmless at first. A tiny drop here, and there turns into an engine that runs low without the owner realizing it. A smarter habit is replacing that washer every time because a tiny part costing almost nothing can protect against a much larger repair bill later. Now move to the oil filter. One of the best-known pro habits is priming the filter when the filter orientation and design allow it. The idea is simple. When you first start the engine after the oil change, you do not want it waiting extra seconds for an empty filter to fill before lubrication stabilizes. Those few seconds may seem small, but repeated dry start style moments add up over the life of the engine. Another common mistake is using too much force on the drain plug or filter. Over-tightening feels safe, but it can create stripped threads, damaged gaskets, or future leaks. That is why correct torque matters more than gorilla strength. Tight enough to seal is not the same as tight enough to damage. One of the smartest inspection steps is checking the drain pan for metallic shimmer, flakes, or unusual debris after the oil comes out. Because if you catch metal early, you may spot internal wear before it turns into a catastrophic engine failure. A magnetic drain plug can make this even easier by collecting metal fuzz over time and turning every oil change into a mini health check. Another overlooked contamination point is the oil filler cap and the neck around it. Dirt, sludge, and moisture there can fall straight into your fresh oil. A clean lint-free wipe before refilling may seem basic, but basic habits are often what separate long-lasting engines from neglected ones. Modern cars add another layer to this process, the oil life monitor. If you do not reset it correctly, your future maintenance timing can become misleading. That matters because many systems do more than count miles. They estimate oil life from load, temperature, driving style, and operating conditions. While the car is lifted or safely raised, this is also the best time to inspect the oil pan area, nearby seals, and any fresh seepage you may have missed before. A small leak caught now can save belts, sensors, mounts, and even your driveway from a much larger mess later. Then there is the PCV valve, one of the most ignored engine maintenance parts in this entire category. When the PCV system stops regulating pressure properly, sludge forms faster, oil consumption increases, and seals can start suffering. That is why many experienced owners check it right before an oil change, because it fits naturally into the same maintenance moment. Oil filter quality is another huge divider between cheap maintenance and smart maintenance. Not every filter that fits is worth trusting. A weak filter can collapse internally, bypass too easily, or seal poorly, which means your expensive fresh oil is no longer being protected the way you think. The oil itself matters too, but not just the viscosity. The correct certification and specification are just as important in modern engines. A bottle that says the right weight may still be wrong for the engine if it lacks the spec the manufacturer expects. Now we get to the hidden pre-oil change step that ties the whole story together. Inspect and clean the air filter housing before the fresh oil goes in. Because oil and air work together. If dirty air keeps feeding contamination into the engine, your fresh oil starts its life in a dirtier environment from the very first mile. That is why vacuuming the housing, checking the filter, and removing trapped debris is such a powerful final step before refilling oil. So before every oil change, do not just think about draining and refilling. Think about preparing the engine for clean oil, because that prep work is what gives fresh oil a chance to actually protect the motor.